Welcome to the CHCI Fall Tech Summit panel, Our Digital Economy, the Financial Tools of Tomorrow. This session is possible due to the gracious contributions from our sponsors, Opportune, Rocket Mortgage, and Visa. Our panel host is U.S. Senator Ben Ray Lujan, representing New Mexico. Senator Lujan's bill to make it easier for local entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to the marketplace was signed into law, and he has written legislation that would leverage New Mexico's labs to drive job creation while addressing tomorrow's energy challenges. Welcome remarks will be provided by Barbara Kochwar, Executive Director for the Visa Economic Empowerment Institute. Our moderator for today's session is Aaron Bedrew. He has more than 20 years of financial sector, strategic consulting, and social impact experience. Mr. Bedrew was the managing director of the Milken Institute Center for Financial Markets, leading a financial markets public policy team with a focus on financial innovations for social good, and is now the Chief Strategic Officer and Chief Operating Officer at Trident. Please welcome our opening remarks speaker, Senator Ben Ray Lujan, followed by Barbara Kochwar.
Hello, Senator Ben Ray Lujan here. It's an honor to join CHCI for their 2021 Fall Tech Summit and share a few words on how we can expand the digital economy to meet the needs of the Hispanic community across the country. I want to begin by sending my thanks to the many stakeholders engaged on this issue. We all agree that access to the digital economy can be a financial game changer for Hispanic families. And as you all know, the pandemic changed how most Americans interact with our economy and exacerbated the systemic issues that already existed. As technology continues to grow, our country must focus on investing in communities that have been historically shut out from innovative financial tech tools. The Hispanic community continues to be one of the fastest growing populations in our country, and we will continue to be an economic force for generations to come. The Hispanic business community is also leading the nation in starting businesses in several industries, underscoring the momentum that continues to build each day. That's why it's critical that we continue working to further policies that directly impact our future and guarantee long-term financial success for Latino families. This means creating a more inclusive economy where all families have equitable access to investing, generational wealth building, and economic empowerment. As a member of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, I will continue working with my colleagues to identify ways to diversify tech tools and ensure all hardworking families have access to these resources that will help them get ahead and stay ahead. I look forward to continuing to work with you to create a more inclusive economy that will empower the country and especially focusing on our Hispanic brothers and sisters. Thank you so much and have a great conference.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Kochwar, Executive Director of the Visa Economic Empowerment Institute. The Institute and Visa share the goal of expanding inclusion and equity. We believe, and our research shows, that removing the structural barriers and systemic biases that degrade trust and entrench inequality in our society is central to achieving sustained long-term economic growth. The Institute is on a journey to ask critical questions, foster dialogue on important issues, like what you'll see in the upcoming panel, and identify policies and partnerships that make a difference. At Visa, we believe digital payments are the on-ramp to financial inclusion. With our partners, we focus on expanding access to the benefits of digital payments and technologies so they can reach everyone, everywhere. Last year, in support of the World Bank's goal of universal financial access by 2020, Visa announced that it had fulfilled its commitment to bring 500 million people into the financial system through a Visa-branded digital payment account. A year ago, Visa pledged to digitally enable 50 million small businesses across the globe by 2023. So far, we've reached a third of that goal, about 16 million small businesses. Visa's partnerships with fintechs are key to helping spur innovation, including and particularly for underserved communities. Our FinTech Fast Track program helps launch innovative solutions and scalability. From supporting fintechs that aim to simplify cross-border remittances for consumers, to helping create innovative payment solutions for their on-demand delivery services, Visa's partnerships with fintechs aim to bridge existing gaps, encourage new modes of commerce and new ways to pay and be paid. With that, I'd like to thank the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute for having me here today to introduce this exciting discussion. I'm really looking forward to learning more. I hope you enjoy the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bedrew. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer and Chief Operating Officer at Trident. Trident is a lower mid-market focused private equity firm that believes that by providing investments into small businesses, we're not only providing capital to the community, to investors, but to the community and the nation writ large. And we believe in providing equitable access to the American dream. I'll be your moderator for today's breakout discussion, our digital economy, the financial tools of tomorrow. Before I introduce our panelists, let me take a moment to thank the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute for providing this platform, as well as Marco Davies, Senator Ben-Ray Lejeune, and Barbara Kochwar for setting the tone for this discussion. In this session, what we're going to be doing is exploring the systematic issues that have prevented a financial inclusive economy where Latinos have had an inequitable access to the American dream. For our purposes, providing capital to job creation, wealth creation, small businesses is going to be a critical backbone for all parts of this country. But that's not been the case in Latino communities in particular. When we talk about access to investing, wealth building, economic empowerment. When we look at the future of our digital economy, how financial tools have been having a critical driver for various communities, what is the opportunity gap in particular for Latino community? What has been the way to actually drive wealth creation for generations to come? As always, it's important that we hear from our audience when we're in the middle of this discussion. So please enter in comments and questions in the chat feature at the bottom of the screen, and we'll make sure to get to your questions. Also, feel free to add in your social media comments with the hashtag CHCI Summit. Right now, I want to bring in the rest of the panel discussion. We've got some unbelievable panelists to share their particular perspective. I'm going to ask each of them to share their name, their title, their organization, and in particular, double click on why this topic is so crucial for them. And I'm going to start off with you, Roxanne Herrera. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today. My name is Roxanne Herrera. I'm the Director of Corporate Development for Camino Financial, a neo-CDFI that is focused on providing small and micro business loans to Latino-owned businesses nationwide. I'm so excited about this conversation because Camino started as a digital lender, and we expect to continue to do more lending digitally and really help service those that need access to capital.
Hi, I'm Orson Aguilar. I'm a Senior Director of Public Affairs at Opportune. And I want to say, first and foremost, I'm a very proud CHCI alum, participated in the program, and it just was great for me. Opportune is a mission-driven lender that provides personal loans, especially to people that have been locked out of our credit system. We have a Latino CEO. 8 of our 11 members come from underrepresented communities. And we're also unique in that we're not only a public company, but we're also a community development financial institution that provides affordable and accessible loans to a lot of folks that are locked out from our credit markets, which I can talk more about. Thank you.
Thank you, Orson.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Fawaz. I'm a Senior Vice President of Rocket Pro TPO. Rocket Pro TPO is part of our Rocket family. We work closely with brokers across the country. We work with brokers to work with clients in the community. I'm really excited to take part of this panelist and be part of this group because I believe that we as Rocket companies, we play a big role when it comes to technology and also when it comes to helping our brokers in communities and educating them and helping them to educate their clients when it comes to financial technologies. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mike. I think each of you brought up this point around access to capital and financial inclusion. I think it's rather important to actually mention when we talk about these issues, number one source of startup capital for job creation, wealth creation in this country is usually friends and family. Number two is bank credit. Number two in bank credit in Latino and other minority communities in this country is rather limited because 70% of census tracts in this country that are predominantly minority, predominantly Latino, do not have a single bank branch. And that's why financial technology ends up being really an important thing. I'd like folks to kind of share when we look at technology and the provision of access to capital and financial inclusion, how your organizations are looking at these kind of writ large for the nation, but in particular for the Latino community.
Yeah, I can start. So when we think about giving access to Latinos and Hispanics, and just speaking from a background, I'm also an immigrant, so it was so important to me when I moved to this country is to get educated on how the financial services work and educate myself on how I can serve my community. So when I think about us as a company, as Rocket Pro TPO, we're very focused in empowering our broker partners in all communities to give them access to all the technology that we have built. Because, again, like I mentioned, I believe we're a tech company at heart. So, the ability to give our broker communities access to the technology that Rocket Mortgage has built in the last 36 years and give them access to our products and be able to help these brokers educate their clients on things that are available to them, whether it's a specific product or a technology can help them obtain a mortgage. That's our goal: is how do we go out to all the communities all over the country and make sure that our broker partners are empowered to use our technology and our products to serve their clients and their communities.
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that the pandemic really shone light to a lot of the gaps and a lot of the different opportunities, I would say, to be able to leverage technology. So there, at one point during the pandemic, nothing really was open. And so a lot of our community members got more comfortable with being able to connect things digitally, being able to access capital digitally. And so for us, that really was a catalyst to expand our microloan program, but more so it allowed us to see that we needed to do more. And so for us during the pandemic, most recently, we launched the third product. Again, all of our borrowers are able to apply through their phone digitally. And what we realized is that we needed to go down further the capital scale. So our microloans, that has been our core product. We decided to, move over to the consumer side and launch our solopreneur, noting that oftentimes our community was losing their 9 to 5 job. They were having to resort to take a third or second job. And this third product allows us to give an opportunity for some of our Latino borrowers to go into the track of entrepreneurship and really go down the camino, the path to be able to create more generational wealth by starting their own business. And PPP, that was a big catalyst to see that, the average loan size was 25,000 and that there was a need to go down the spectrum. For us, technology allows us to go to market faster, and with the hopes that if we continue to invest our technology, we know that that'll allow us to be able to make decisions for some of these borrowers to be able to access capital within hours and not months.
Yeah, for Opportune, historically, about half of our customers come to us with no credit score. They're called invisible folks with invisible credit files, no file. And if you have no file, you have no credit score, no FICO score, it means you're locked out. Incumbent institutions, banks are not going to give you a loan because they have this traditional approach. Our technology really allows us to, one, look at alternative data, right? Because we know that are the communities that we serve are Latinos. There's a lot of assets, a lot of wealth and richness that's not tracked by traditional data. And so the technology, the software allows us to analyze that alternative data and do it in a very quick way. We can, look at, a lot of sources of data and, within minutes, approve somebody for a loan. This is a big deal because if somebody is locked out, they walk over to the payday lender, they walk over to a predatory lender. And, we just commissioned a study. Our loans are on average 6 times cheaper than what else is out there for our customer base. In some cases, our loans are 24 times less expensive. The technology is what allows us to come in at a cheaper price, and hopefully, with more history, being able to roll out more products, we'll be able to serve more people in the future.
You all touched on this point of kind of bringing more consumers into financial inclusion, largely leveraging technology to kind of make the process a little bit more streamlined. There's two sides of that equation, right? There is building the trust with the community members on one side to be comfortable to come in, while on the other end is at the institutional side, being comfortable with leveraging the technology as the right way to do the traditional underwriting. And I see each of your organizations has kind of approached it perhaps in slightly different ways. I'd love for you to talk on this point of using technology to build the trust or getting consumers in, and on the other end, to build the efficiency on the institution side.
Yeah, I'll start. I'd say for us, we have go ahead, Roxanne.
Go for it, Arsen. Go for it.
Okay. So we have a hybrid model, which is quite unique. So we do have stores because they still want to come in and talk to somebody. They want to be able to make cash payments. But we also have, really tacked on a very heavy digital approach. I would also say, with our back office, we have plenty of staff team members that are very fluent in Spanish and are very culturally proficient. And so, at the end of the day, people also want to call somebody. They want to talk to somebody that speaks their language. So we're able to do both well. But clearly, as was mentioned by others, during the pandemic, digital uptake really, really took off. Communities really, especially Latino communities, really got comfortable using a lot of the digital tools. And so, we think that's going to open up a future, but we also think people still want to call somebody that knows their language, that can speak in a culturally competent way. And so, the technology is important, but we think that human interaction is still important as well.
And I would add that, one of the key components as to understanding, where borrowers or the community is along their tech path is also we ourselves started creating small business surveys. So surveying our borrowing base and saying, what are you going to use the capital for? Where do you need additional capital to expand and grow? And, over 50% of respondents have said that digitalization is key to be able to keep their business afloat or to be able to scale and grow. And so to that end, for us, it's also, to Orsen's point, a lot of it is picking up the phone and answering questions that they might have with connecting, their Plaid account information. For us, there's about 30 of us in the US. We're headquartered in Los Angeles, but about 80 of our associates are actually based out of Mexico City. We just opened up an office in Bogota, to the point that, a lot of our immigrant community members want to be serviced in their own language. Language is a big barrier. So being able to pick up the phone and have them, ask questions in Spanish, or be able to sign documentation in Spanish, or to be able to even have, their kids or their family alongside with them asking questions, or being able to connect accounts. That's huge. And it goes a long way to just be able to move the needle to be able to connect things so that they're able to access capital faster.
Interesting. Mike, how was it at Rocket?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, to us, building trust is so important. As an immigrant, my first mortgage was done with a broker. I wanted to walk into a shop where they spoke my native language, and I wanted to feel that I was being served by someone that spoke my language, and get comfortable to trust them. So our goal is from a Rocket Pro TPO side as a wholesale lender is to continue to work closely with our broker community, allow them, give them access to our technology and our products, and also educate them on how to serve their communities. And because, in my opinion, I mean, especially like our communities, they want to work with a trusted advisor. I hear that word a lot. Hey man, Fawaz, I want to work with a trusted advisor. And there's no better trusted advisors out there other than our broker partners. They know the business, They're provided with our technology and our products, and through them, we're able to serve communities across the country.
Each of you brings up this point of kind of the importance of targeting at the community if you want to actually move the needle in the community. I was recently having a conversation with a group of financial institutions on this point of whether or not they targeted this marketplace and had perhaps Spanish language strategies. And the response that I'd gotten was, "We're not an impact fund." And it dawned on me there was this perception that if you engaged in that space, you're dealing with concessional impact rather than thinking about this as the fastest growing demographic in the country. And if you're doing something that's not targeting the fastest, it's perhaps limiting in your own commercial strategy. I don't know if you have any reactions to that.
Well, I'll speak for Rocket companies. We're proud to actually, we have a dedicated team that speaks the language, works with our Hispanic borrowers. We also have documents that are Spanish to make sure that we serve the broker, our clients, but also on our Rocket Pro TPO side, on the side where I work, on our wholesale side, we also are empowering our brokers across the country that are in communities to be able to serve the Hispanic community. And these are brokers that speak the language. These are brokers that are able to offer the same financial tools that a client would get through Rocket, but only through a broker in their local community. Walk into an office and get that feel of the trusted advisor feel. And that's one. So we're doing it on both ends, whether it's on our retail side or on our wholesale side. We are very serious about continuing to provide service to our Hispanic community.
Yeah, and to be honest, numbers speak for themselves. So my first reaction is, the stats indicate that by 2050, Latinos will account for 30% of the demographic. We're opening businesses at one of the fastest rates. So automatically there, out of, let's just say a group of 100 people, if you're not considering us as part of that purchasing power economy, then you're losing out on 30% of your demographic, right? And so a growing demographic to be added. And so really it's almost wearing that business hat and saying, okay, well, yes, we're digitalizing, we're employing technology tools to be able to go to market faster because this is one of the fastest growing demographics. And if we're not servicing and being able to work with them as they're growing, then we're losing out on a market opportunity. And when I think about partnerships and some of the quote unquote impact opportunities that we're bringing over at Camino, it really is just starting with the business case and saying, what do the numbers say? What is the total addressable market? And why is it a business case need and not a concessionary need to be able to service this demographic now as we continue to grow and add purchasing power to the economy?
Well
Yeah,
said.
Aaron, you bring up a good point. There are a lot of fintechs out there that are chasing the Henrys, right? The high income, not rich yet, right? That's not who we are after. We're looking at, my parents immigrated from Guatemala. Their credit journey started with, buying nearly everything on layaway installment plans, and they eventually bought a house. They eventually got a retirement account. Their kids went to college, and so there's a huge market out there that resemble families like mine. And companies will continue to make the mistake of overlooking the Latino market, overlooking the immigrant market. You just have to look at the numbers and the huge economic potential to show that this is a market that not only needs service. This is not charity, right? This is also a sound business approach because the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah. No, well said in terms of the numbers speaking for themselves. And speaking of numbers and volume and scale, one of the largest capital flows around this world is remittance flows. And especially in the U.S., the Latino community is well documented as being a driving force for sending capital back to perhaps family members or their native countries or wherever. I'd love to talk a little bit about the evolution that you're seeing in that landscape, especially in a post-COVID world where everyone globally is being hit, and how your organizations are providing a service for Latino immigrants that are or family members to send money back home.
Yeah, so for us, 50% of our historical loan volume has been to immigrant community members. We know that there is a huge tie back to the different countries that they come from. And so for us, it's really saying we're not going to ignore that, but we're going to create more interconnectivity for you to be able to seamlessly perhaps even do business internationally while being domiciled in the US. And so like I said, we just opened up an office in Bogota. We expect to open up more offices across LATAM. And on the remittance front, we know that, being able to have, more ACH processing, or just being able to interconnect different accounts seamlessly to be able to move money within minutes, that's huge. And I think that's the evolution of where a lot of companies are thinking about from a fintech perspective, even from, like you said, a globalization perspective, knowing that there's just not one office in the US now. There's interconnectivity across the board. And that's how we want to be able to service them and be able to offer solutions to be able to do that faster and more seamlessly.
Yeah, our
Perhaps
company doesn't
Orson and Mike,
provide
while you respond to this, also throw in what would be your ask of policymakers, as there is a policy question also embedded there.
Yeah, I'll touch on the remittance real quick. Although we don't provide remittances, I was hearing one of our client stories, and she was using some of our installment loans to build out some properties back in Mexico. And when you think about that, that's wealth creation, but we just don't know how to count that, right? That's global wealth. That's wealth that's appreciating. Those are materials that are appreciating. And so, definitely there's a lot of transactional payments. So even though we're not sending remittances, a lot of the funds that we provide go for wealth building projects in other countries, often Mexico. Another thing that we do is we partner with companies that provide remittances, but that don't have a responsible loan product. And so a client is able to come into that store and send a remittance, but also able to, access a loan should they need it. On the policy side, I think we just, we need more guidance from the federal government, from our regulators, in terms of, what is responsible finance, right? We all know that, nationwide, we don't have a rate cap. California has a rate cap. What should that rate cap be? But I think at this time, we're all looking for more guidance from our Congress and our regulators so that we can go out there and do more business.
Yeah, for us, we don't, as a company, as Rocket Pro TPO, we don't offer remittances either. But I believe what we do is we offer access to credit, access to mortgage to our communities, where you have the ability to refinance and take cash out, or even just purchase a home so you can build wealth. And we provide access to the ability to take that money and invest in back home, or send money to your families. I think with us is just through access to credit and doing a mortgage with us and with our partners.
Well,
And I would
each of
add,
these. Sorry, go ahead, Roxanne.
I would just add from a policy perspective, I think we've seen a lot of momentum being had on, the SBA, really putting small businesses and just businesses as being a driving force to get back on the road to recovery. And so, different programs, Community Navigator, a hub and spoke model, PPP was a big aha moment that there needs to be more public-private partnerships and funding from that regard, and different programs that need to be spurred to be able to create more of a catalytic effort to continue to keep a lot of these small businesses afloat, but at the same time to create entrepreneurship as a way to build generational wealth and get more community members out of poverty.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And to that point, there's going to be even more proliferation of more technologies and more services. What do you think? What are you looking forward to seeing in the marketplace? What's exciting you? What's coming down the pike?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
so
Roxanne. Ladies first.
our CEO has made a public commitment, the road to a billion, creating more capital opportunities for small businesses and solo entrepreneurs. But even more so, creating a platform where it could be like a one-stop shop, like he calls it the Latino SoFi of the world, where, if a member needs a mortgage, if a member needs a loan, if a member needs health insurance, all of these different products and services that they can literally access through an app. That's the evolution, a one-stop shop where our members are able to, have different products and services offered to them, and with a click of a button, being able to quickly access them and, and use that as a momentum to be able to have a better life, have a better, product offering, and at the same time be able to continue to access capital seamlessly. When I think about the evolution of technology, most recently I transitioned over from Schwab, and one of the things that Chuck has been known to do is essentially democratizing investing. Right now, I mean, the past to do trades, it was like $5,000 a trade, and now everybody has access to stock bits and different ways to be able to access investing. And I think that's a huge momentum that we see from fintechs being able to offer the day-to-day retail consumer access to just different products that are ultimately going to catalyze their opportunity to be able to invest and create more generational wealth.
Yeah. To us, speed and certainty. We live in a world where our clients want us to deliver with speed and certainty. And one of the things that we think about as a Rocket company, as Rocket Pro TPO in particular, is we've invested over 100 million just this year in our technology to provide that ease, that speed to our consumers, to our brokers, so they can provide to their clients. Because I think overall speed and certainty is the future of uh, how mortgages work in general. But again, mortgages really we are a tech company at heart when I think about that. So for us is how do we provide that speed and certainty to the consumers and the broker community?
To previous points, there's huge market potential, right? There's, about 100 million, U.S. consumers that, don't have adequate savings, that are financially insecure. And so we'd love to figure out a way to serve them. We have aspirations to be a bank. We would be one of the few banks with a Latino CEO. And we'd love to provide more products, right? Right now we have 3 lending products. We'd love to do more. We'd love to have some saving products, some investment products, because our communities need this. You see it in the surveys. We hear that there's just boundless potential and pent up demand. Folks just need access to those tools, and the fintech companies here and others are providing a lot of those tools and making them in a very accessible way, especially to the Latino community.
Well, it's wonderful to hear your plans, and I have to admit, it moves the conversation from kind of the typical engagement of access to capital to true financial
Mhm.
inclusion across multiple different areas.
Right.
And I, clearly there is a part to play of the community itself as well as the institute. What would you want individuals or the institute to be doing to kind of enable more of that inclusion in your industry?
I think having this, starts with panel conversations like this, but clearly identifying those fintech companies or those solutions that are providing, broad-based solutions to financial inclusion. And I love the way you stated it, right? It's about financial inclusion in all aspects, not just, access to capital or not just one loan at a time. And our communities, we're still relatively young community in the Latino community. As we grow up, we're going to need access to all these products. So I would start with that.
Well,
And the pandemic really taught us that, we can't do it alone. Having these dialogues, partnerships, coalition building, more opportunities to say, well, I fill, X percent of a ladder, but then we need to create the next ladder and the next ladder to be able to continue to scale and help these entrepreneurs and small businesses grow And at the same time, the other big piece is holding Fortune 500 companies accountable. There have been a lot of different racial equity pledges being made, and it's also a matter of raising our hand and saying, how can we help you fulfill some of those requirements, or some of those commitments that you've publicly stated. And continuing to say that as CDFIs, being out in the community, we are first responders, and we want to continue to do more. And we know that we can't do it alone. So there needs to be a public-private component, coalition building, and really having Fortune 500 companies think through it with us as well.
No,
I
well
think
said.
discussions like this helps a lot, and I do think whether it's for the Hispanic communities or other communities, we need to do more of these discussions. It's on us to educate our communities of how to leverage some of the proven financial tools that are out there, some of the tools that have been tested and used by so many Americans. I'll tell you, I get the fear of the unknown because I personally had to deal with it, but I also had to educate myself and make decisions for myself and my family and how to lead my community. But I also do believe that it's just not about one community, it's about all communities. And how do we have more of these discussions and be out there educating our communities on how to leverage some of these tools? I really do believe when you think about just when you speak about Americans, there's all these, you see, there's a lot of speakers that gives, like, they're on TV, and you hear them giving financial advice. But when you look at our communities, there's none of that right now. We don't have like a one go-to person to whether they're on TV or they're speaking about the things that we need. So I think it is on us as community leaders to be out there educating our communities and talking about the financial tools and how they can help themselves and how can they educate themselves so they can leverage these tools.
Now, I think that's a wonderful segue to this one point that's been kind of on the top of my mind in terms of the title of this session being kind of our digital economy and tools for tomorrow. We're dealing with probably one of the biggest stepwise changes of the economy, different industries, different ways of working, different things coming to the forefront. And in some cases, things that would have changed the future of work, how we engage with each other and the like. And I would say the Hispanic community and other minority communities were largely going to be some of the displayed populations for tomorrow's economies, the digital economies, and access to capital and financial tools to make sure that they're both still a participant, but actually a driving force for economic change going forward matters. And I'd love for you all to kind of share your thoughts on kind of what is the digital economy tomorrow, and then the tools that we need to make sure that the Latino community is a participant and actually a major force.
I still think we're going to need, tons of labor. We have a labor shortage, and as a result, all of them are suffering from our labor shortage. Not to mention the supply shortage, of course. And so, I think human capital is still going to be extremely important. The jobs, Latinos are found in all professions: lawyers, doctors, teachers, gardeners, you mentioned. And so, I think there is going to be a huge displacement, perhaps, but new industries will prop up. Maybe it's the electric vehicle industry will replace, the combustible engine industry. And so, I'm not giving up yet on human capital. And I think the biggest driver of human capital in this country will be Latinos. And it's imperative that we more companies figure out how to serve them. And to the point you said earlier, there's so many changes, so many innovations to the financial services sector and how things are being served, that our communities are going to need to be engaged, right? And it's beyond financial literacy. It's really engaging our communities on what tools, what websites, what apps to use, because there's so much. Frankly, I'm confused, and often I don't know, like, what's the right website to go for my credit score. So to your point, we need a lot more education and engagement.
Yeah, I
Right.
mentioned, I keep mentioning that we're a tech company at heart. And truly we are. And when I think about why that's important to our to our broker partners and to the communities, it's because we're able to provide these communities and our brokers access to everything that we have built in the last 36 years. And that allows our brokers to educate, because again, I do think there's an opportunity with educating our communities on how to leverage some of these technologies and to take advantage of them. I do see us lacking when it comes to taking advantage of some of these financial technologies or these financial things that are out there for us. I still have family members that don't even have a mortgage, and when you try to explain to them, there's always like, "Hey, I'm afraid to get a mortgage. I don't know, how do I get a mortgage? I don't even know how to do it to get my credit." And that's where it's on us as companies to be able to continue to provide access to credit and access, specifically for us, access to mortgages to our broker community so they can provide that service to their clients. Because again, they're in the market, they're in the communities, and they're the trusted advisor. They speak the language, and they can be able to provide their clients with better service.
Well said. Well said. I think now might be a good time to bring in some of the folks in the audience to participate. I'm going to ask, well, one question in particular I'll share with folks is what are some of the challenges and differences that you're seeing when looking at demographics who are underbanked or unbanked that you want to think is important for your organization to focus on and to address going forward?
I'll chime in. To Orson's point earlier on the whole concept of using alternative data, that's huge. For those borrowers that are potentially getting their first loan, whether it's on the consumer or on the regular commercial side, oftentimes having no track record or no documentation to be able to use that as a platform to be able to get access to capital, that ends up being a big barrier. So different technology tools, and in our case, instead of a FICO score, we have a Camino score for our borrowers for that first loan to really continue to put more research, more investment, and more of a highlight as to how important these alternative data points are to be able to move the needle from a capital access perspective is huge. The second
Can
challenge
you
to that
explain?
is,
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more about the difference between the Camino score and the FICO score?
yeah, so obviously, a traditional FICO score oftentimes has, 5 or 6 different categories that are being used to ultimately create a score. And for us, it's actually leveraging different data points from different bank transactions, from different data points across just a consumer's, monthly income, or different data points that we can actually leverage to synthesize a different score for these borrowers to then be able to make a decision faster than what a 650 score or a 700 score and all these different bands could actually have offered. And I know there's a lot of data refinement, and for us, as we're doing more lending, our essentially our AI software, underwriting software, continue to get smarter as to how the different data points that we're adding to the Camino score. So that's still evolving as we speak.
Got it. Mike, I'm assuming you probably have a perspective on this as well, given Rocket's claim to fame.
Yeah, for sure. So we continue to focus on helping give access to Hispanic borrowers, whether it's on our retail side or with our broker partners. We continue to educate our broker partners when it comes to how to engage their clients and how to provide some of these products that we have for their clients. So to us, it is so important to continue to engage with our broker partners, elevate their business, help them grow their business so they can provide services to their clients in the market and offer them some of the products and technology that we offer at Rocket Company.
Orson,
Yeah,
perhaps.
I definitely, agree with those 2 points. And, just touching back on what Roxanne said is, this credit score and the fact that we have 3 companies that provide credit scores, that's going to continue to be a barrier. And so we need to really look at, other methods. As I said earlier, half of our customers come with absolutely no credit file. And you see, as they get their first loan, just how suddenly they're getting a credit score. And then once they're in the credit bureaus, then suddenly they have way more financial access than they ever had before. A lot of people don't know this. The payday lenders, the predatory lenders, they don't report to the credit bureaus. They keep you in that system. We report to 2 of the 3 credit bureaus because we want folks to have more opportunities, and hopefully they'll stay with us. But should they find other alternatives, other products, that's great too, because we were able to open that door to our traditional credit markets.
I'll tell you, I just want to add to this. This is so important. These discussions are so important to educating our communities because when I first moved here, I didn't have credit and I had to figure out how to obtain credit and how to have that credit get reported to these 3 bureaus. And it was challenging. I had to do research and I had to figure out. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of members of our communities that don't know how to obtain credit or how to establish credit. And that's why we see a lot of our communities, they're not utilizing these tools that are available for everyone else in a country. So it is on us. This is why these conversations and these discussions are so important.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share a little bit more on winning strategies that perhaps outside of the Latino community that you think should be repurposed and perhaps tweaked a little bit to get more folks comfortable with this?
I always keep hearing the fact that, especially when it comes to like bank and CRA capital, the conversation is around, again, tell us the business case study as to why this is important. And oftentimes, especially within small business, we see a lot of buzzword around affordable housing and some of these larger volume transactions. So really, it's telling the narrative as to how technology is allowing us to be able to go to market faster at a lower cost and still be able to service more community members with the goal of eventually migrating them back into a mainstream economy. So back to potentially getting those, rocket mortgage loans, the B of A, bank loans of the world, the SBA loans. There's always what I've been hearing a lot from a lot of these Fortune 500 companies is tell us how eventually some of these consumers will come back to us. And so it's really starting on the ground and then eventually creating that path to say it'll be funneled back, but you need to start making that investment up front and getting them comfortable with saying, even if it's, the smallest of the small loan, or, that first loan, or whatever it may be, a different demographic, an immigrant community with, that's borrowing on an I-10, how does that all eventually migrate back to, the mainstream economy? And then it's for us, that's one of the legs that we're making sure that we're building to incentivize more investors and stakeholders to come to the table.
On this issue of financial tools for tomorrow, and when we're talking about financial inclusion, there is usually a range of different things, not just on access, is affordability, availability, accessibility, writ large. And I was wondering if you have a perspective on what's kind of the critical element to focus on for the Latino community.
Yeah, I would, I look at a lot of fintechs. I'm just really interested in the space. And it's amazing how many these new companies that are talking about financial inclusion. Number one thing, they don't have their websites in Spanish, right? And again, Opportune serves a broader customer base, but for this conversation, being at CHCI, we're focused on Latinos. How can you serve the Latino community if you can't bother to translate your website into Spanish, have materials in Spanish? And you're a tech company. This should be, frankly, not a hard thing to do. And so, I think, these tools need to be made accessible. They need to see this as a vibrant market, which it is. We see it. But it starts with, again, it goes back to some of the basics, right? Even though we're talking technology, software, If you're not speaking their language, if it's not culturally competent, it doesn't matter, how smart the robot is. It's not going to connect to our communities.
Accessibility is Orson's vote. Mike, Roxanne?
I agree with yours, and I think there's two parts, at least from our end, from Rocket companies. We offer it through our retail side, through our Spanish-speaking bankers and our Spanish documents to make sure that we provide a service to our communities, but also through our brokers, because also we have brokers across the country and in all communities, and we have a lot of Spanish-speaking brokers, and that's where we provide them the tools to be able to offer to their clients. So we understand the importance of this. We get it. We've been focused on it for a while now, and we have it from both ends, whether it's on a retail side or on our wholesale side. We want to continue to provide the Hispanic community, but also other communities. As I continue to have these conversations, I was just part of APEX a couple of weeks ago. I'm starting to think more and more of how do we provide this to every community, not just the Hispanic, every community. There are a lot of communities out there that are in need of this service, and it is on us.
Yep.
And I'll speak for us, Rocket. We're very interested in being able to provide these services for everyone.
Yeah, and the letter that I would add is awareness, making sure that, we are telling what the research is indicating, and not doing it alone, but doing through advocacy and through, different community partners and stakeholders so that everybody understands the numbers behind it.
It's interesting that none of you mentioned affordability, which is typically the presumption of whether it's underbanked, minority, or Latino community, that is the missing ingredient. And I think it says something when all of you said no. It needs to be accessible more than anything, and I appreciate that. Final question from the audience. Wanted to ask this question. What are, other companies, entities, or partners doing to close the gap in the U.S. that you think are worth highlighting for others to learn from?
We saw some of that during PPP. There were a lot of different partnerships that came about to be able to move capital faster, and using technology to be able to do that. So that really brought a case study for the opportunity for partnerships and the opportunity for, hey, it's okay to go to market faster, especially if you have government support. And so those are some areas of opportunity that I hope we'll be able to continue to leverage and expand on.
Just to add to what Roxanne's saying, yes, when during COVID we saw a ton of resources out there, and it was open for everyone. I think it's how do we continue having access to some of these resources that things go back to some sort of normal? Like, how do we continue bringing these resources to our communities and give our communities access to some of the things that we saw through COVID, whether it's PPP or others? How do we continue doing that?
Yeah, I'd say there's also, there's the emergence of neobanks that are providing a lot of, great, applications to help you save, applications to help you avoid any type of late fee on a credit card or an overdraft fee. Companies such as Chime or banks such as Borrow Bank, great products. I don't know how well they're reaching the Latino community. They might well be, but I'm just not sure. And so, I see some of these products as very, as a future, right? If you can have, if there's an app telling you, hey, you're about to hit your limit, like, hey, this is a good time to save. Like, hey, you got this extra 100 that we hadn't seen before. Want to send it to your retirement plan? There are these amazing tools coming. And again, my question is, how are we going to ensure that our communities are users of these and can really take advantage of these technologies?
Well said. Well said. I think we could continue this conversation for multiple hours, even days, on the importance of them. But recognizing that we're nearing the bottom of the hour, so as a wrap-up question, clearly, there's a lot that each of you has discussed today, and it could be perceived as perhaps daunting for viewers in the audience. Um, what encourages you about what's in store in the future, and also the tools that which you're working on, and how that might, how would you inspire the audience and your consumers to engage going forward as part of your final thoughts? Perhaps we start with you, Roxana.
Yeah. So I would say, my call to action, Camino's call to action is really just to be able to use data to enhance our products, because we know that, there are, capital in isolation is not the solution. And we know that there needs to be more resources, more information, more advocacy that's being had for our community and communities at large that are underbanked. That is the mantra. And so I would say, taking a look at different product offerings, different opportunities from coalition building, and for us raising our hand, knowing that, hey, we're here to take on that challenge. And the name of the game is to grow and to be able to create more generational wealth for the communities that are often left in the shadows.
I'll tell you, when I think about this, in my opinion, mortgage to me is a means of creating wealth for an individual. And as a fintech industry, including mortgages, and as mortgages actually transitions into more and more innovative and tech positioning, it is so important, in my opinion, for people to get comfortable with mortgages, to trust not only mortgages, but any financial tool, but to also trust, and more importantly, to have access to that tool. With us, it's our commitment to continue to provide our broker partners across the country that serves these communities the access to technology and products so we can continue to help them serve their clients, and more importantly, serve the communities that are in more need than we think there are, because there's a lot of communities out there that are so much in need of access to these tools, and it is on us to continue to educate and provide these tools to our communities.
Yeah, I would agree. It's twofold. Is one, for all the listeners out there, is go try one of these tools or products. I use some of these tools to check my credit score from time to time, and it's pretty amazing what they can try to figure out about you. I personally use, it's not a commercial for them. I use Credit Karma, but free service, and it's just amazing what they know about my credit history, what I need to do to improve my credit. So I love playing around with a variety of these apps. So one, if you're not using one of these, go use one. But two, use them so that you can educate your community, right? A lot of our participants out there, you're going to be working with community. You can be an ambassador or liaison to help educate and onboard some of these people, or just answer questions. Because again, this stuff is really new. It does seem daunting, but once you start using it, you realize it's frankly easy to use. So it's a 1-2 strategy. Use it yourself so that you can educate others on how to use it for their betterment.
Well, I thank each of you, and I think it's an amazing thing to. Each of you started it off with the importance of the wealth creation and job creation element for the community as a first starter. But you also touched up on this point that it's not about the affordability or concessionality of this. Investors that are looking at this, there's a lot to be gained by focusing, as long as you have a targeted strategy of engaging on the culturally sensitive but language side of things. And then the third one that I'm always mesmerized by is the sheer economic potential of this community as being the largest demographic, its purchasing power. And you'll remember a year ago, all the statistics of the amount of economic productivity that's left on this table for this country if we aren't tapping this market is immense. And especially in a post-COVID world where mobilizing all of the community to participate in an economic recovery for this nation is going to be necessary. So it's good for the community, it's good for investors, and it's good for the country is when you engage with all members of the U.S. community, and in particular the Hispanic population. And with that, I wanted to thank Roxanne, Orson, and Mike for your wonderful comments, and I want to thank CHCI for the Tech Summit. I would like to also thank our listeners. And again, if you want to engage on any of these subjects on a go-forward basis, continue to use the hashtag CHCI Summit. We have several sessions throughout the day and the afternoon plenary session. After this, please stay tuned for our digital schools, education, workforce, and technology at 1:45 p.m. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Have a wonderful Thursday. Thank you.